Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
Hey, it's me, Egbert. E-G-G-B-U-R-T. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
You know, we don't subscribe to Nielsen, so we don't know how the radio ratings are, but I have to tell you, the internet ratings get better and better every day.
Is that, no, wait, you're talking about Leslie Nielsen, right? From Naked Gun?
Yes, Leslie Nielsen.
I subscribed to him. I subscribed to a lot of his movies back in the day, Brad.
Leslie Nielsen, who at one point in time was a very serious actor. Matter of fact, do you know that he was the captain on the ship for the original Poseidon adventure? Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yes,
no.
if you go back, and of course he was killed, and of course most of their crew was killed. If you know the whole goofy, didn't they redo a second Poseidon adventure?
I don't know, but it was name checked in the Method Man 1994 song from the album Tikal. That be deep as the Poseidon adventure. I might make that the song of the day today.
You know all this stuff. Well, see, the thing about it is he's most remembered as Naked Gun and, all the crazy comedy stuff he did. And once again, if you watch those movies, and I think his breakout role as his comedy was Airplane, where
yes,
he's the doctor, and there are some classic lines in that movie that are still used today. Now, once again, there's a movie that couldn't be made today.
Oh, of course not. And I once linked to on Twitter. I like to post some clips with the headlines every day. But the effeminate guy that says there's a sale at Penny's.
Right.
That was a childhood catchphrase for years, Brad.
He works at the FAA. He's in the control tower. Yes. But there's so much stuff in there where Leslie Nielsen. Now hold it. Robert Stack goes to the airport and all the guys are asking him. All the people who you see that's something that doesn't happen anymore. Remember when the Moonies and all the other crazy people
weren't they Hare Krishnas?
Yeah, they used to and there were court battles against them and the whole bit, and he beats them all up.
Hey, now the best part is though, Brad, what you and I can relate to is two boys who grew up in Spanish Lake. We can indeed speak jive.
You know what? Well, no, hold on a minute now. You can, I can't.
Spanish Lake got a little darker in the 80s. I think you had already evacuated the premises.
Well, there's a difference between, how things change. By the way, there are things that happen in the news, and I had to read this story over again, and I have questions about this. And matter of fact, if you can, there have been two, not one, but two bi-state bus shootings within the last week. And are you up on either one of these?
I saw the headline on the Post-Dispatch. I don't have it up on the website today because it's more of a municipal story. But a guy was shot on Metrolink, right?
No, these were both on buses.
Oh, they were on buses. I saw Metro. Oh, yeah. And I assumed it was Metrolink.
No, these are both on buses.
Okay, yeah, they're on the homepage of scltoday.com.
Right.
I saw them.
Right. Okay. Well, I want to talk about something about that because of the fact that here we go again, and I'm not trying to stir the pot, but first off, I read the one story. I read it 2 or 3 times. I thought to myself, okay, I'm not exactly sure what happened here. And I mean, obviously, I know what 2 people were killed, but there's a component of the story that I don't really understand, and maybe I thought you might be able to help me.
And we'll get to that, and then we'll also have a great pro wrestling story and corporate kayfabe story, Brad. So we'll get to that at some point today too. I teased that on Twitter this morning.
There he goes, John Combest, who comes out every single morning, 22 plus years, never misses a day, updates his website, johncombest.com, COMBEST. Puts like a Missouri spin on a Drudge Report kind of website. It's nothing but links. That's all it is. There's no graphics. There's no in-depth stories. There's no 42,000 word, essay from like the Riverfront Times or anything like that. It's just headlines, and you scan it, you see, oh, that's of interest to me. You click it, and it takes you where the story is. It could be on a website for a TV station, radio station, a government site, a newspaper. He's got the scoop. So here he is, and we bring in this esteemed announcer. What's your name again?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he counts it down. So, Casey?
In third place.
This week in Missouri politics, midweek update brought to us by Scott Fawn every week. Had a guest on yesterday, a woman named Dina Ladd. Now, Dina is familiar in political circles. Once ran, point of fact, for state representative in 2004. And she's gone on to have a really significant, accomplished career. She worked for the stem cell industry for a while as a stem cell advocate. And now she works for a group that advocates for police chiefs. She has an interesting proposal we'll get to in just 1 second, Brad. But we'll also talk about one of the overviews that she gave was the Missouri marijuana industry. And she's a member of the board of MoCan Trade, which is the Cannabis Trade Association in Missouri. So Dina and Scott covered the upside of the Missouri cannabis industry, what it means for jobs, what it means for revenue, what it means for veterans, and also gave a very candid look at the problems and the challenges with regulating some of these products. We should give a shout out to Scott. We should give a shout out to Scott for giving us a shout out yesterday, Brad, on the show, because Scott mentioned the conversation that we had on this show about essentially the swap meet marijuana market, where guys can go to a swap meet and sell unlicensed marijuana essentially out of the back of their trunk or their pickup truck. Scott mentioned the fact that we talked about on this show that at some point somebody is going to get some bad weed that is mixed with fentanyl. There's going to be an overdose, and people are going to say to the state, hey, why are you not doing a better job regulating this? So thanks to Scott for mentioning us on the show yesterday. And it's a really good look. I would suggest folks go to it. I have the timestamps up on my website today. And Dina talks about the fact that, their group is also pushing for Delta 8 THC regulation. And we talked about this on the show before, Brad. Today, you can go into a convenience store and go to what would essentially be the energy drink aisle and get it either an energy drink or some snacks that have like a lower grade. You could think of it a less intense version of marijuana active ingredient, and just go get high. You'd have a little bit lighter high or a little more of a mellow high, but these products are unregulated. Obviously, the cannabis industry wants to tighten regulations on this. Cynics would say they want to make money from it, but it's a really good discussion on the cannabis piece. And then I would also just point out, Brad, something I think you'd be interested in, because this is one of the law and order type issues you have discussed before. They have the group that Dina represents is proposing something called Valentine's Law, which is named after Tony Valentine, a police officer who died in 2021. And what the bill would do, it would make, if you're fleeing the police and you end up killing somebody, you're automatically charged with a felony. Miraculously, that is not on the books as it is today, but that's what Dina's group is proposing. So this week in Missouri politics, midweek update, have the link and the timestamps up today.
I find it somewhat ironic that the marijuana people are after the other marijuana people. You know what I mean? Don't you?
Yeah, but think about this though, Brad. Here's why it's to be expected: a ton of money. And when you bring a ton of money into something, if you're a marijuana lobbyist and you're not a part of the action, or you don't like the way, or you feel quite honorably that the system is set up wrong, or that they're incentivizing the wrong people, when you're talking billions of dollars, Brad, you're going to have people at each other's throats.
I get it, but the point being that they are there because of the fact that we enacted a law, and now that they are there, they want to enact laws that protect them. I mean, like I said, I find a slight bit of irony to that.
Right. And Scott Fawn pointed that out. He said in general, Republicans and conservatives generally say they don't want more regulation. But then all of a sudden they want, when it suits them, they want more regulation.
But here's the crazy thing. Yeah, and you're right in that respect. But the crazy thing about this is, once again, as my libertarian, angle, I'd say blow the thing wide open, because essentially what you have now is you have a government-controlled monopoly in the marijuana industry. I mean, the legal marijuana industry.
Yes,
because
correct.
I can't just wake up in the morning and drive in my car and go put in a permit for open up a marijuana store in St. Peter's or Chesterfield or wherever. I have to get a license from the state of Missouri, and guess what? They ain't giving any more of those. They're all taken from. Very similar to what happens in our industry with broadcasting. If somebody decides that we suck and they can do a better radio show, they can't just show up, at the FCC in D.C., file an application, get a license, put a tower up, and broadcast. Not even get a license, just put a tower up and put a transmitter on, and okay, those guys suck. I'm going to be better because it's a controlled monopoly. Because there's a resource that is somewhat limited. But I could talk about this for another 10 minutes or so, because I found this whole thing fascinating. Because if you look at what's happening in California is having a terrible problem since they've legalized marijuana, because of the fact that they thought it was going to essentially kill the illegal dudes. It's emboldened them, and they're making more money than ever.
Yeah.
Because
it's what you call the law of unintended consequences, Brad.
Well, and there's a lot of Chinese operatives who are operating these illegal marijuana places in California. But anyway, moving on.
Up a notch to number 2.
Number 2, John.
A battle of alternate headlines. The Missouri Senate gave initial approval to an education bill yesterday. And depending on who you listen to, Brad, depending on which media headlines you read, this is either a voucher and charter school expansion, or it is a much needed and glorious boost to teacher pay. Democrats ended a filibuster. Democrats were filibustering this education bill. And in short, the bill that passed yesterday would do, well, there's no such thing as in short when it comes to this bill. I believe the final bill that was passed was 123 pages, something in that neighborhood, Brad. What it would do is it would expand what are conventionally known as vouchers, or you could call it the Most Scholars Program. It would expand public charter schools to include the city of Columbia, if Columbia wants to have public charter schools. And it would, interestingly, and some would say overdue, it would require Missouri law that districts pay teachers $40,000 per year as a minimum, up from the current minimum of $25,000. Now, this bill was the topic of political Twitter and political social media last night. As always, people are at each other's throats. There will be in the next day or two a lot of dissection of what actually passed in the initial reading yesterday.
And last but not least,
the number one
story comes to us from KFRU in Columbia. A gentleman named Ted Farnan has a radio show over there. He's a former state representative. And as an aside, Brad, you'll appreciate this. Their radio station used to do great interviews, and it was impossible to link. It was impossible for me to link to these very good interviews. KFRU finally has a linkable system so I could link to Ted. And he did an interview with a presidential candidate, Brad. Now, if I went to you, Brad, and I had done my research on Brad Hildebrand, and I kind of knew what messaging he liked, and I came to you, Brad, and I said, I have a candidate running for president that says kids should just forget about the traditional college degrees, learn a real trade, learn a real skill. You don't have to go to some diploma mill. Also, this candidate says, hey, I'm a purple candidate. Good ideas come from Democrats and Republicans. And finally, Brad, this candidate is a notorious underdog. Is that something you'd be interested in, Brad?
It is. Who is it?
Guy's name is Jason Palmer. Now, Jason Palmer garnered headlines recently because he defeated in the Democratic primary Joe Biden in the land of American Samoa. So he garnered some headlines there. Excuse me. And Ted had him on the program because Democrats' primary will be on March 23rd, and Democrats can mail in ballots now, and they have the option to also vote in person. But Jason Palmer was on the show to talk a little bit about how he's a different candidate, why he wants to offer Democrats a choice. His main issue is education. He says that he's been an education entrepreneur his whole life, and he's echoing that idea that in this modern economy, you don't need a piece of paper from a 4-year diploma mill. You'd be better off learning Google Analytics or a host of other actually practical skills today. So it's the very top link on my website today. Check it out.
Interesting you bring that up because something we didn't talk about the other day. It came out Monday that Fontbonne College is closing. They're taking
Yes, I saw that. No more font bunnies running around Clayton, which is disappointing.
They're taking no more new students. Apparently, they're going to close. I guess at the end of sounds like a little bit over a year from now. At the end of the semester we're in right now. I don't know if you call it. See, I went to school. It was all quarters. We didn't have. What do you call this?
The spring semester.
Is the spring semester? Okay, even though it starts in the winter. Anyway, and ends in the summer. But it doesn't end in the summer. Anyway, see, once again, the education thing is to me I shake my head. Now I say it again. I'm a guy with 2 degrees. I have 2 worthless degrees. I had this discussion yesterday with Shelley Barr, of all people, where
nice.
To give Shelley, John, I'm going to, not to embarrass Shelley, but you know what? Hold on a minute. Maybe we will embarrass Shelley. Let me plug my phone in here.
Sure.
Okay, let's have a little fun here. And I'm not poking fun at her, but sometimes she says things that are like, she said, what? Okay, we're doing this. We're going to do this. This should hopefully come up on the air. There it is. I know she's awake. Maybe she went back to bed because she texted me earlier. She must have gone back to sleep. Anyway, I'll give a couple more rings here and then we'll move on. I will paraphrase what she said to me yesterday. She said to me, I said, we were talking about, because she does not have a college degree. And she's always talking about how degrees are so important and how people have degrees are so much better than people that don't have college degrees. And the irony of the situation is that I have 2 degrees and I say they're worthless. She has no degrees and she says they're very, very worthwhile. Okay. We had a discussion yesterday, and essentially, I don't know how we got into this about, you got 2 degrees. And I go, yeah, tell me what I could do with my 2 degrees. And she tells me I could become a night manager at Quick Trip because they're paying $77,000 a year for night manager at Quick Trip. And my BS detector, not only did it go off, it exploded because I don't think there are night managers working the night shift at QT making $77,000 a year. I mean, what do you think?
Maybe, Brad. I think maybe there are. Now, I mean, the asterisk there would be their initial pay cannot be $77,000. I don't believe that at all. But I believe that there's probably night managers that make in that neighborhood.
Night manager at QT. And I'm not demeaning that. I'm essentially saying...
not at all. Neither of us are.
I find that hard to believe. And if that is true, then...
Now, hold on. Let me interrupt. They might make that in a big city, Brad.
Well, this is a big city.
If she's talking about St. Louis, I don't know.
Well, hold it now. You're saying a big city...
In a big city, you have to pay... Yeah, I mean, you get paid a lot more in a big city.
Well, I don't think there are Quick Trips in big cities because most of the Quick Trips came out of the Midwest. I don't think there are Quick Trips in New York or San Francisco or Chicago. I mean, it started I believe in Tulsa. But
I get her point. I get what you're saying, and I get what she's saying.
But the point being that it's like, okay, see, here's the other interesting thing. She sends me, and I'm a guy that I spend way too much time on the internet with videos and stuff like that. She sends me this thing the other day, and it's this woman that she does like TikTok videos, and she's going like, "Hey, you want a great job? Be a voiceover artist." So she says, go to this site, voices.com, and all you have to do is register, and you can make $2,000 an hour. And she says, "Oh, it's so simple. You just go in here and you just record yourself, and then the people hire you, and you make $2,000 an hour." Okay, let me tell you something. I do voice work, okay? I don't do nearly as much as I used to, okay? The voice business is in the toilet because of one thing. You know what that one thing is?
I know. It's called Fiverr.
Well, no, it's in the toilet because of AI. Because
okay, good point. Yeah,
all these different companies that come out with, man, there's probably not a week that doesn't go by that I don't get a new company saying, hey, a matter of fact, I got one the other day, Athos, Athos. It's directed at radio stations. Hey, don't hire that cantankerous talent. Don't hire the people that they don't feel like they're ready to record a commercial. Pay us $88 a month, and you can grind out commercials left and right. We've got 44 different voices. You can make it sound slow, fast. You can make it sound old. You can make it sound young. You can make it sound ethnic. You can make it sound, like different languages. You want a commercial in Swahili? We can do that for you. That's what's killed the voiceover business. So here you've got this woman say, hey, go on voices.com and it doesn't work that way. And I think it's to the point where what's frustrating to me is you see these things and it's like, well, that's not true.
Yeah, but it's a scam. And in segment 2, we're going to talk a little bit about knowing something is a scam but participating anyway. But, most people, I think, well, I don't know. I shouldn't say most people realize that that's probably not doable, but there probably are a lot of people who say, oh, well, what people do tell me I have a beautiful voice. Let me create an account and enter my credit card information and join the site. And for only $10 a month, they'll promote me to other people in the network. What a deal.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work that way, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, we're behind. We have to take a break. This is the Brad and John Show. You can check us out on the web at bjshow.co. I'm getting better at that, aren't I, John?
Yeah, it's fantastic. We're nailing it.
bjshow.co.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?